is all yours.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have Charlie Johnson with us, Peter Harris from Spartan, and Alexander Fulgalaire. Many of the team is in the audience, Bugs and Carrie, and so we'll be able to answer some questions as we go forward. We have some brochures and press releases back here. So we'll try to get those around to folks who would like to have some reference material for our updates today. Briefly this morning, I'd like to talk a little bit about the business and the background for the SunFlyer program, the process of an electric propulsion general aviation aircraft becoming a trainer, a certified trainer. We want to talk a little bit about the technology and the engineering update. Charlie Johnson will talk about that for a few minutes. And then we have three press releases, I guess you could say. One is an Australian distributorship. The second is some further deposits from some key associates in Europe. And Alexander will briefly mention that. And then we'll invite Peter Harris up. Key relationship with Spartan Aeronautical College. In addition to taking 5 additional aircraft for 25 total, we have a program of development of the infrastructure, the A&P, the mechanics needed to support this next generation of aircraft. And our collaboration with Spartan there is so critical, so we'll be talking about that here in a minute as well. So, 5 years ago, we started along the journey of imagining that general aviation could be revitalized through a process that incorporated several technologies. The key one, of course, is electric propulsion. Electric propulsion reducing the noise signature. Electric propulsion reducing the amount of cost for the energy to fly. When you look at the market requirements, you look at flight training as such a critical area of general aviation. Boeing and others have forecast this huge requirement for new pilots. You know, many of us from my generation, Bugs and Charlie, so many of us who are once leaving the military service or having come up through the civil training process, many of us are nearing retirement. So we have this media awareness now beginning as we look at today's professional pilots. We look at tomorrow's requirements for professional pilots. The general aviation segment that's devoted to flight training is becoming very critical. The FAA in 2008 reported that flight trainers, the category of aircraft today that are flight trainers, in 2008 the FAA reported the average fleet age was 45 years old. There's some 9,800 of these aircraft, averaging 45 years old in 2008. So the new technology initiatives behind the business of the SunFlyer, the business of electric aviation, and all the compelling elements that create the possibility of electric aviation in the coming 2 and 3 years, 4 years out. Behind the business is this important criteria, this important element of providing training for the next generation of pilots. Our partnership with Spartan and others, the technology that our Chief Engineer and COO and Charlie Johnson are integrating into the SunFlyer development. Upcoming very soon, we'll be talking about flying the aircraft and increasing the flight time. But the critical market entry in our view is this flight training aspect. A 3-hour flight time, a 1.3 hour sorting for the airplane is an ideal match of technology and a critical requirement for next generation training. I'm going to invite Charlie up to talk a little bit about the status of the program from a technology perspective. The prototype that we have here at Booth 66, the aircraft is here. We're delighted to unveil the aircraft for you. Charlie, would you like to do a short update? Charlie Johnson.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. I wanted to do a very high-level flyby of what we're doing with the electric aircraft log later. And as George said, please, if you have time, come down and look at the aircraft. It's right up the main road right there. You go to the intersection. There's an airport display, black and white, the right behind that, this SunFlyer on the end. A lot of you know about 6 or 7 years ago, some of us were involved in the conversion of the Cessna 172. We flew that airplane about 20-25 times and learned a lot off of it. As battery technology got better, we became involved with a company in Germany who used composite technology in a single-seat airplane. We flew that about 20 times, I think 25 maybe. Very good, but 25 locations. We'll celebrate that maybe. But anyway, we really are tremendously enthusiastic about where we are right now. If you have a chance to look at our airplane, it is the SunFlyer 2-seat, all composite. The airplane is basically going into this next phase of ground testing and flight testing after we talk about. We've had power on the aircraft. Everything is playing extremely well together. We'll start flying the airplane early in the fall. We are targeting certification on the airplane sometime in 2018. We have an extremely good relationship with the EAA. I hope it's an F-18 when they take a lot of hits. The ACO is working with us. We're going to have primary category certification, Part 21. There will be no attention to the motor of the power plant. We're working with them to write the rules. So when that airplane comes out, it's going to be a primary category airplane with no attention, no exceptions. It's got a 100 kilowatt motor, which equates to about 135 horsepower. As George indicated, it'll have about 3 hours worth of duration. We will fly this airplane, be going into some pretty significant flight tests in the late fall, early summer, early winter. We'll be building a second prototype. That'll be going to fleet. One of our customers outside the United States has requested a prototype so we can have airplanes going into other countries for certification. So the program is really proceeding well. As George indicated, one of the neat things about it, some of you may have seen the press release from the National Park Service. They were having a hard time finding our airplane even to make noise tests on it. That was our yellow single-seater. So we got tremendous feedback from the National Park Service. Environmentally friendly. We're taking fuel costs from about $50 plus per hour down to $2 or less per hour. 3 hour duration, great training airplane. If you come by and look at it, we'll set the platform up very specifically to make it extremely simple for a pilot to transition from the internal combustion engine to electric power. So things are proceeding well, and when you have a chance to see it, I think you'll see why we're all enthusiastic about it. So please come see us, please come up the road, and we'll be happy to say more about it. And with that, I'd like to introduce Alexander Goulier. This man who has known for at least 10 years, right? 40? Thank you, sir.
Well, Europe is a very important market, as you know, and we are very much concerned by environmental issues, especially the noise. This is why, Paris being in the heart of Europe, I'm very happy that we can go on with this SunFlyer program and starting in the next following years, a school which will be only dedicated with SunFlyer airplanes. Look like SunFlyer, and I'm convinced that the future is electric.
So in our press kit, you'll see an announcement with Alexander Goulier and 3 additional SunFlyer aircraft deposits coming from partners in Europe. And the key thing, of course, is the operating costs, and the fuel costs there are, of course, somewhat more even than here in the States. But our European partners are growing in importance. Last year we announced the first deposit agreement with the European, the Aero Touring Club de France, and we're very pleased to announce 3 more aircraft there in Europe. Thanks to Alexander for that. Electric aircraft need support, and the ability to recharge, the ability to maintain electric aircraft is part of the infrastructure change, of course, that's happening in aviation, or needs to happen in aviation, just as it has with ground transportation, Tesla, electric cars, etc. And we're happy to further our collaboration with Spartan Aeronautical College. And I'm going to introduce Peter Harris, the president of Spartan, to talk about the next steps of collaboration with our good friends. Peter?
Thank you, George. It's a pleasure to be here. We are always excited at Spartan College to support the SunFlyer. We're thrilled that we have a deposit agreement to obtain the first 20 aircraft that are made available because we need them. This is an interesting time for aviation in the United States, and in some ways I feel like we're participating in fomenting a little bit of a revolution in terms of how aviation flight training is expected to occur. There is some significant confluence of events that's happening that will make this a really exciting time for us to be able to participate. So we always consider it an honor to be here with George and Charlie and others as we talk about the continued progression and development of this opportunity. So let me give you just a brief moment on Spartan College for those of you who might not be familiar with us. And I do so to introduce why it is that we've entered into this new arrangement in terms of collaborating on developing some additional maintenance training support for the SunFlyer. Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology has been training pilots and technicians continuously since 1928 and have trained more than 90,000 people from our campuses located in the Tulsa metropolitan area. Recently, we have added to that history by bringing some additional schools into the family of Spartan. We acquired what used to be the old Northrop Rice Institute of Technology out in Los Angeles, right across the street, almost literally from Los Angeles International Airport. We opened a new campus in Riverside, California, on the historic Flaylock Airport. And just a few months ago, particularly relevant for this conversation, we were able to bring Redstone College into the Spartan family. Redstone College has 2 campuses in the Denver metropolitan area where the SunFlyer is based. We were particularly excited about being able to expand in that area because it gives us some expertise in that same metropolitan area where the SunFlyer is being developed and where so many of those resources can commingle with our resources. Redstone College and Spartan College of Aeronautics together, then, as we look back, have trained thousands and thousands of aviation technicians. Currently, across all of our campuses, with our aviation maintenance programs, our aviation electronics programs, and our flight program, we are currently training well over 1,000 students at any given time in aviation-related disciplines. In Denver, specifically, we have a program not only in aviation maintenance, but a uniquely dedicated program to aviation electronics. Our campus in Tulsa and our campus in Denver are 2 of only a handful of really well-recognized aviation electronics programs. As you can imagine, that's important as we look at bringing the SunFlyer into our fleet. In our flight program, our flight training program, we have over 40 aircraft right now, and we're hoping to add as soon as we can some additional airplanes to meet the growing demand to train pilots. As we do so, it dawned on us that we will need to care for those aircraft. We will need to maintain the SunFlyers, and we didn't have a document, a training program to be able to help us do that. So the announcement today is that we have agreed to collaborate with the SunFlyer to build a maintenance training program that will probably A&P mechanics, to be able to service SunFlyers and similar electric aircraft as we go forward in this new revolution that seems to be happening with respect to flight training in the country and in the world. You know, it's the timeliness of all this is pretty amazing. As we look forward in our forecast over the next 10 years, we anticipate needing globally somewhere a little less than 300,000 new pilots in 10 years in this decade. And we're not prepared as a world to supply those right now. So this is an exciting development. On the other side of the coin, in that same decade, we expect to need a little more than 300,000 technicians. So we're happy to participate in this little slice of those technicians in terms of building a maintenance program that will help them, and we can ultimately go through and supplement and add to the training program. So again, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. We've been associated with SunFlyer for 2 or 3 years now, and are excited about the consistent progress that they're making that coincides nicely with our focus on developing innovative techniques to address flight training here in the United States. Thanks.
It's interesting, if you think about those numbers, 300,000 new pilots needed. There's about 145,000 right now today. About 145,000 commercial pilots today. Or not commercial, I should say airline transport pilot flying today. About half of those are retiring in the next 5 years. So you see the dramatic contrast about the state of our pilot demographic today and what's required in the next generation coming coming 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years out. And of course, Boeing is predicting something on the order of 550,000 pilots over the next 20 years. So not just a short-term bubble, but a long-term emphasis coming up. Well, it's not just a U.S. problem. New pilots are needed around the world. And we have a partnership we're announcing today as well with an organization in Australia. We're announcing a distributorship in Australia, specifically in the Southeast Asia region generally. The distributorship will help anchor our aircraft sales and marketing in Australia and Southeast Asia. About half of the pilots needed in the coming 10 and 20 years is from the Asia region. So we're very pleased to work with friends in Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia, as well as we continue to develop the SunFlyer network, not just in the U.S., but around the world. Of course, what's interesting with the Australia relationship is that they're taking 2 prototypes as well. So kind of forward-looking in the process of developing the aircraft, but also certifying the aircraft, not just here in the U.S., but with our partner nations, of course, in Europe and in Australia now as well. So that concludes our overview here this morning. We wanted to leave some time for questions and answers. I know in the past we've been asked how long is the extension cord. Now we're moving into how long the batteries last. I get that, I know. So we want to talk about what's happened in the last few years, the last even 6 months, that have enabled electric aviation to really start to take hold. The battery energy density has improved by a factor of 2. The weight of the structure, the aerodynamics. If you have a chance to come by Route 6060, the aircraft, you'll see it's very, very sleek. It's about twice the aerodynamic efficiency of the Cessna 172, for example. About half the structural weight of the Cessna 172. So it's not just advances in the technology around electric propulsion, it's also aerodynamics, structural weight, the design of the avionics and the display system, working carefully with Spartan, with Redbird and others to make sure we have a training system for the next generation of pilots. So I'd be delighted to open up for some Q&A if you'd like. I think we have just a few minutes. We have experts if I can't answer. Well, we've got Gary in the audience as well. Yes, sir. Nice and loud.
Hi, Tom Patton with Aero News. So many of the airplanes that people would be moving out of their training to go flying are still fossil fuel airplanes. And you need to learn fuel management. You need to learn about carburetor ice and so many of those things. How does an electric airplane fit into that segment of the flight training scenario?
The display systems and presentation, I think you'll find is directly related to the convention that we're all used to as pilots. Charlie, on the display system.
At a very high level, the whole aircraft is designed, control placement, power level placement, throttle, whatever. So the transition generally will be fairly simple. We have energy available gauge, we will use the same thing as fuel gauge to do range prediction. To answer your question specifically, it's the same type of transition that somebody makes going from internal combustion turbine to gas, things like that. We'll have transition support for people that. And we didn't want to nail it out because it's really interesting on the end. Things like carburetor, tremendous number of people, no matter what training they've been through right now, don't understand it. When you go in an airplane after 20 years after training, that's important for you to check with them how to go a long route. The airplane is designed to make it kind of goal to keep the training, you'll learn about fuel, you'll learn about some of the things that are sensitive in terms of combustion engines that you mentioned earlier. It's the same type of thing that you want to learn about our airplane and do with that. I hope that answers the question. We have that very much in mind. Thank you.
Just speaking on behalf of the trainer, we have found that it's really important to have a range of technology in how we train pilots so that they understand how to fly different kinds of aircraft. As an ab initio trainer, that's important to us. We still have some planes purposefully with the round dial gauges and the other pieces, and for us at least it will be at least a mixed fleet in terms of being able to train pilots and how to use all kinds of aircraft, including combustion and electric.
Thank you. Great question. Currently, it's $249,000. The price for the aircraft is $249,000 at present. Anybody else?
Any packets on funding? Do you give any warranty for battery? So I think this is a question for a lot of schools, buying aircraft, perhaps it's a light sport category or not, and you buy it for relatively a lot of money. You have a theoretically money saving by the battery, but how can you guarantee the battery durability?
The question has to do with the battery generally and warranty or process with the container for the fuel or the energy of the aircraft. Right now, we're using an LG battery from South Korea. Tesla, for example, has used Panasonic and is now transitioning to the LG battery as well for some of their additional, for the retrofit, I think, on one of their cars. We have, in our operating costs in the process of maintaining and flying the SunFlyer, a battery replacement reserve. And that is calculated as part of the operations day-to-day, just as if you were consuming fuel. We intend, and our operators intend to replace the batteries. They have a cycle life limit, if you will, a warranty for how long they can be in the plane. And generally, depending on the operating use, that's 3 to 5 years. And of course, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. The batteries have value outside of use on the SunFlyer, so they are recycled into another use. The next generation batteries are brought in as these batteries are recycled, if you will. And by that I mean batteries are improving at about 10% a year. The last 10 years, the line is almost straight. We know today we're at about 260 watt-hours per kilogram. We're seeing energy densities approaching 400 watt-hours per kilogram in just coming very few years. That's a big deal for electric aircraft in the sense that we'll go from a 3-hour flight time to 4 and 5 hours. We'll see a vast expansion in the utility of the aircraft. We'll also see the introduction of 4-seat and a family 6-seat, perhaps other larger aircraft coming in the years ahead because of these improvements in the technology. So we view our perspective and working together with our operators, this is a very good thing, even compelling. The improvements in battery technology and the regular upgrading of these batteries are part of the system of the SunFlyer coming in the near future. I think, okay, just one last quick question, then we're done. Thank you.
Recharging time.
So the latest, the question had to do with recharging time. The very latest we have on the supercharging technology is somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes after a typical hour and a half, 1.3 hour flight training sortie. And just real fast, in 10 seconds. One of the fun things about electric propulsion is that there's no idle. There's no internal combustion engine 1,000 or 1,200 or 800 RPM idle required. So you look at the energy use for a 1.3 or 1.5 hour sortie, it's really only just the flying segment that's consuming energy off the battery. And Charlie likes to point out often we'll be taxiing the electric airplane, we come to a taxi intersection and the propeller stops. No noise, no propeller. Of course, the tower goes, "Are you guys okay?" And it's like, well, that's normal operations for an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. Anyway, some changes are coming, and we're very pleased. Thank you so much for coming today.